What's up? It's Austin here from Make Pop Music and Austin Hall Audio, and today I'm going to show you how to make a Silk Sonic record like this. What's up everyone, it's Austin here and we are back with another video, and I'm sure as you can tell from the title and the preview and this wonderful attire, today what we're going to be doing is breaking down how to make a Silk Sonic song. This is probably the most requested video we've ever had in our channel history, so I'm really excited to be doing it. We're going to look at how to make a Silk Sonic record that's a little bit more upbeat and funky, similar to 777, Fly As Me, or Skate. So if you want to see a more down-tempo kind of Silk Sonic ballad similar to Leave the Door Open or Smoking Out the Window, let us know in the comments below and we'll do that in a future video. But before we hop into Cubase and I show you all of the tips, tricks, tools, and techniques that Silk Sonic uses to get records within this vibe, I do just have a really important announcement, and that is that today, June 3rd, we have released our brand new drum kit, the Anderson Paak, at makepopmusic.com. So if you want to head over to our website after this video and you want to read the full product description of the Anderson Paak and you want to hear product examples, you can head over there. You can get this drum kit right now for $45. However, after the first week, as of next Friday, it's going to go up to the list price of $60. So if you want to pick up the Anderson Paak at a discounted price, you have 1 week to do so. Head over to makepopmusic.com after this video. Before we hop in, I know that you can go read those full descriptions over there, but I do just want to give you a little bit of a taste of what we have in this pack. This is a pack that we've been working on for about 6 or 7 months. It is inspired by Silk Sonic and Anderson Paak as a percussionist, and I'm really excited because what we've done is we've given you 2 complete drum kits full of shells and cymbals. We've given you a percussion section that's shared over both drum kits, and we've given you a whole bunch of loops, grooves, and fills that were tracked across 4 different tempos and 4 different vibes by a live drummer that you can drag in and you can use within your songs. So all of these drum kits and percussion elements were live tracked. They were all multi-sampled. They are fully dynamic, and you can use these in several different kit versions. The most important is a contact kit that we built from the ground up. This contact kit has a home page that you can add up to 4 insert effects per kit piece. It has a mixer page where you can set your levels and you can do your multi-out routing. It has a mapping page that you can load, save, and customize your own kind of drum maps for your programming needs. And then if you don't want to use the contact version, if you don't have Contact 6 Full, what you can do is you can go use either the Ableton Rack kit or the Logic Sampler kit or the Groove Agent kit if you're in Logic, Ableton, or Cubase. And if you don't have any of those, you can always use the Trigger 2 TCI files for Slate Trigger. And if you still don't have that, we've also given you all of the kind of custom one-shots that have been live tracked and pre-mixed across all dynamics, so you can always drag in the WAV files just like you could drag in all of the loops. We also included about an hour-and-a-half worth of exclusive tutorials and video showing you how to install the kit, how to use the kit, how to mix soul drums like this, how to program drums like this. So you are getting a ton of bang for your buck. I don't want to take up too much time in this video. Again, if you want to read all of the stuff about the Anderson Paak and you want to see who contributed and what the pack includes and you want to hear some examples, head over to makepopmusic.com. Once again, the pack is $45 for this first week, so head over and grab it at the sale price because after the first week, it is going up to $60. So head over there, check that out. Other than that, let's hop into Cubase so we can actually start breaking down this Silk Sonic song. All right, now we're in Cubase. We have a tempo of 105 because we're going to be making something a little bit more upbeat for them. All right, so to start this song off, I want to start with the drum kit. So we're going to be using the 777 kit out of the Anderson Paak that I just talked about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down some drums right here. I'm probably just going to write them in so we don't have any lag, and then I'll kind of show you what we're working with. So here we go. Here's what I've written for the drums. A lot of the time with these Silk Sonic drums and really anything that Anderson Paak is doing, it's pretty simple on the kick and kind of the main snares being on the 2 and 4, but he does a lot of these little ghost notes here with these hi-hats. So let me kind of show you what that sounds like. So it's kind of a more complex groove than we typically do on this channel just because he has a lot of kind of flavor when he plays. So we're doing most of these things in triplets just because that kind of Silk Sonic record has a lot of swing. You've got some pretty simple stuff happening with a kick and snare. And you can see that we're kind of accenting certain snare hits over others, and we have these like really soft hi-hat and snare rolls here. And if I zoom in, you can see that we're not perfectly on the grid. So when you're working in this kind of Silk Sonic style, or really any kind of funk, soul, or R&B records, it really helps if you're not kind of putting everything to a grid perfectly. And it really helps if you have a dynamic drum kit and you can really go in and make sure that all of these hits felt like they're played by a real drummer. One thing to kind of highlight is we do have this little turnaround in the fourth measure, and this is kind of signature Anderson .Paak, is playing kind of an open closed hat riff with the left hand and right hand. So it's pretty straight with the tss, 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 but he's got these extra little kind of like triplet snare hits in there, and that really gives it that kind of like signature Silk Sonic groove. So you can see that for these drums, we're doing quite a bit more than we typically do. Same thing kind of happening for this. We just duplicated it, so nothing crazy is happening. Now that we have some good kind of funky drums, I think the next thing to do is add a bass line. So what I'm gonna do is add a live tracked bass, and then I'll kind of show you what we play and how to process that. All right, so now we have a live tracked bass. This is just using a Fender Jazz bass. Really, a J bass or a P bass could work really, really well for this. I wanted something that kind of cut through the mix and felt like a focal element. And one thing that I see Silk Sonic do a lot is they'll kind of slide into where the song picks up. So we can actually drag everything back so it starts evenly on the second measure. But we have a little bass slide that goes in here, and then we just have a nice little riff. And that layered over that drums really gives us that kind of like funky kind of soul vibe. And having the live track bass with some of those extra slides and fret noises and things like that, I feel like really do help the vibe. So if you can live track a bass, definitely do it. If not, you can always use something like Trillion or one of the kind of like ample basses or something like that that's pretty realistic. Let's talk about how we're gonna process this. So for the bass tone on this, I wanna keep it pretty simple. I like kind of the more DI sounding bass. I don't need something super, super insane. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna use CLA bass, and here are the settings that I have on this. This is gonna change no matter what you're doing or what bass you're using or how the song is, but to me, this really kind of gets it in the right ballpark. We're really just kind of getting some lows, getting some subs in there. We got a little bit of kind of distortion saturation to give us some upper kind of mids, and then we're just compressing that and adding some top end. So in solo, and that gives us that nice plunky kind of funk bass. The next thing that I want to do to this bass is add a gate just to get rid of some of that extra noise and fret noise and that kind of background buzzing. And that to me just tightens everything up so it feels a little bit better and a little bit more organized. Then we just add a little bit of EQ to kind of soften this up. We don't need this bass to be so kind of mid-heavy. Just to help it cut through the mix, and then a little bit of R bass just to give us some kind of subharmonic saturation, but it's barely doing anything. It's really just for some texture. So here it is with that full bass kind of mixed and ready to go over those drums. Let's go ahead and let's start adding in some funky guitar. All right, so I tracked up some funk guitar. So this is just a left guitar and a right guitar. I've panned them out. They sound like this. So nothing really, really crazy. Let's go ahead and show the amp sim. So I'm doing the same thing on the left and the right. We're just using the Archetype Corey Wong amp. Let me drag that in. We do just have this on the DI setting because a lot of the time for these funk soul records, it is just DI guitar. And then we do have some pedals happening. We're just doing a little bit of compression. Not too much happening with this EQ, just a little bit of mid so it kind of spanks and pokes through. And then really nothing happening here. So this is just a super clean tone. It doesn't really have much. Just to kind of put it in a more realistic space with that bass, here you go. And that's gonna give us that vibe. The next thing I wanna add is let's add in kind of some keys just to get some extra texture in the background. The next thing I wanna add is some kind of like E-piano. So we're gonna be using Keyscape so I can throw on some kind of like Rhodes. This is a really, really common thing that you're gonna hear in these kind of 60s and 70s funk and soul songs. We are throwing in some like extra different, you know, like sevenths and ninths, and we are kind of taking it in and out of the key, just because that's something that Silk Sonic does a lot. They borrow notes a lot, they kind of modulate a lot. So you don't have to be super, super strict about what you're doing in terms of like music theory. Really, if it sounds good and if it has a vibe, it's gonna work. So let's go ahead and take a listen. And those little Rhodes stabs right here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna layer that up with some horns. These are just the pop horns out of East West, so pop brass. We're doing some crescendo long, it looks like, so we've just got... Because I'm finding that they use quite a bit of horns and stuff like that. We're also gonna add in like a glockenspiel and some kind of like little flute, so let me do that right now. All right, so I'm hearing a lot in these records, they use like a glockenspiel to kind of add some top in, and they'll use something like a flute just to kind of give them some extra texture. So we're gonna be using a flute out of the Contact Factory Instruments and a Glock out of Keyscape, just to give us like some counter melody. So let's go ahead, and what I want to do now is kind of put together this entire verse with like an A section, a B section, some cutouts, and then I'll show you what we get. Here we go. So I've got a full first verse fleshed out. So I added a couple little percussion things. So we have just some stick counts. And then I have a live track drum fill from the Anderson Paak kit that I was talking about. And this is just a pretty simple tom fill. And then that's going to cut into the Paak. And then that same bass line that we talked about, what we're gonna do is we're gonna leave the first half of this pretty open with just a bass. And then once that kind of plays through again, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add this triangle in the shaker. So triangle is gonna be panned, shaker is gonna be panned opposite, and this is gonna give us some kind of counter percussion. And when we bring in that triangle and that shaker, that's when I'm gonna start bringing in those Rhodes that we talked about a little bit earlier and that funky guitar. And then now, once that plays through again, that's when we're gonna bring in that glockenspiel and that flute. So as you can see, we're kind of following that 4-bar method that we use a lot on this channel, where it's build out a verse, pull things from different areas and kind of start to structure it. And then one thing that I really, really want to talk about is in Silk Sonic songs, a lot of the time when they're transitioning from like a verse to a pre-chorus or a pre-chorus to a chorus, they're gonna have a complete vibe change. So we've been really upbeat and kind of, you know, riding on that funky bass line and riding on that guitar. But one thing I want to do is I want to pull it down for this pre-chorus, and the way that we're going to do that is by doing this little turnaround right here. So right before, let's take a listen. So let's talk about what we're doing for this little turnaround. The main thing that we're doing is we're cutting out all of the extra percussion, and I add a really nice drum fill in. And then on top of that, this bass line is going to change up a little bit. We're going to actually shift, so instead of having this kind of lead rhythm, and then we are completely switching up the chords. So we've got these Rhodes that are going to come into play. And then same thing with these kind of horns and glocks. And the main thing that I want to talk about in this section is this wah guitar right here. And this is such a Silk Sonic thing. Let me show you what this sounds like with nothing on it. And what we're doing is we're adding the Corey Wong amp once again, and this we're actually going to be using this amp right here. It's the Clean Machine amp. Here are the settings if you want to copy it. It's really not doing anything crazy. It's kind of just some tweaks on the Comic Sans. But what's really important, if we have engaged this wah pedal here, and we don't have it on auto wah, what we're going to do is we're going to write some automation, and then it's going to read that back. So I've already done that. Let me kind of show you what this sounds like. And that's gonna give you that really funky kind of psychedelic guitar, and that leads in so nice to what we're gonna do for the pre-chorus. So let's go ahead and lay down some drums for this pre-chorus and lay down a bass for the pre-chorus, and then we'll check in. Here's what the drums are doing for this pre-chorus. We've come from this fill now. We're kind of going with that. I think it's like the pre-chorus of Skate does something similar. And then I've laid the bass line over that, same mixing and everything. And this to me is really gonna give the vibe change that we need. I'm also gonna add some of the percussion from the Anderson Paak. I've actually programmed this in with a contact kit, and this is gonna use some of the bongos. And that to me is building up to be a nice pre-chorus. What we're gonna do is we don't have any guitar for this pre-chorus. Instead, we're gonna put a lot of emphasis on these keys. So we have that same Rhodes from earlier that we're gonna use, and we're gonna just be using these big kind of jazzy, bluesy kind of 7th chords. Same with the Glock and the flute. And then what we're doing now is we're adding some extra elements. So we've got this like spacey Rhodes. This is gonna be just for a little bit of extra width and texture. Following the same chords. And then we have a Mellotron in here from, I believe it's Contact, or no, Omnisphere. And this is just the radio flute. A lot of these records from this time, whether it's the Beatles, whether it's something like a funk record from James Brown, all of those are going to use some form of like a mellotron for strings or flutes or organs or choirs. So if you can put a mellow in there, go for it. We also have some sustained brass. This is really important to the actual arrangement of this. And we have that crescendoing up. We have these rising horns right here. So let's take a look at how this plays in from the kind of verse into this little, it's like a pre-chorus or a bridge or a turnaround, whatever you want to call it. All right, let's go ahead and let's build this chorus up. It's gonna be most of what we have for that first verse. However, I'm gonna show you how to take an element that's already been used and turn it into something bigger. All right, let's work on this chorus. So what we're gonna do for this is we've got the kind of pre-chorus working. I'm gonna just take some drums similar to what we had at first, but instead of relying so much on that hi-hat, we're gonna go with something that's gonna float on that ride, and it's gonna be a little bit more straight. So now that we have that, we're gonna use that triangle, that shaker, and those percussion kind of elements that we used earlier. That mixed with that bass line, we're actually gonna recycle the bass line from earlier. We don't need to do anything too crazy. And then for the keys, we have built this up, so this is quite a bit bigger than this verse over here, as you can tell. So this is gonna be a really, really important part. And it's gonna have these Rhodes that happen, not on the one, they're actually gonna happen on the two, so. And what we went and did is we added this lead horn line. And then we've got a glockenspiel doing a little bit of a counter melody. That mixed with those spacey Rhodes and those brass elements that we had earlier. And then we're doing quite a bit to the guitar that we haven't done before, so let's take a look at that. So what we're doing with the guitar is we have one element right here that's kind of following what those horns are doing that I just showed you. And it's just got that wah kind of opening and closing it, and then we've just done that again on 2 more octaves. Lots of wah pedal, but it's pretty much all the Quarry Wong amp. Here's what it sounds like. And that is pretty much all we're gonna do instrumentally. So I'm gonna add in some vocals right now, kind of show you how we're gonna layer these vocals, process these vocals, and use those. And then that is pretty much the whole song. All right, so we're in it now. We've got the full instrumental. I've automated everything, kind of cleaned everything up. So by the end I can show you, but we haven't really added anything that I need to really go over. What we have done though is added quite a bit of vocals. So we're writing a Silk Sonic song. It's upbeat. I'm gonna write it about Las Vegas. I'm gonna write it about partying. I'm gonna write it about women. So that's what we've done. And basically, what I hear a lot in their songs is they kind of have one lead vocal that's going to go through the entire thing. And then what they do is they like to put their stacks and their harmonies and their certain accent phrases on individual elements. And then there are parts where they kind of bring the energy down and where they do that more doo-wop kind of harmony vibe. So we'll get to that in a second. But for right now, let's go over this main vocal. So let me mute everything else, and I'll kind of show you what this looks like. I did use the Lewitt LCT 1040. It's the mic that I'm using for everything now. I love it so much. If we just wanted a clean vocal on this, we wouldn't have really had to do anything. But we're gonna get a little bit of vibe. Here's what the mic sounds like with nothing on it. I got the candy paint coupe de ville with the fur on the wheel. Got the snake eyes dice hanging off the mirror. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of Pro Q just to kind of thin this out a little bit, because I'm finding the Silk Sonic vocals tend to be a little bit more thin. They tend to be kind of pokey, and a lot of them have some saturation that we'll get to in a second. And then we're just going to do some very, very simple compression and some EQ. Really nothing crazy out of the ordinary on this. We will be using a tape machine to kind of just give them a little bit of that vintage vibe, take away some of the super sizzly top. We're going to be using a little bit of de-esser just to get rid of some sibilance, and then the Motown EQ. I figured why not use it on kind of a 60s, 70s funk record. So we're going to be doing that. So here's what it sounds like with no sins, just the inserts. I got the candy paint coupe de ville with the fur on the wheel, got the snake eyes dice hanging off the mirror. So you can hear that we're immediately cutting through a little bit more, and then we do have a couple sins on this. So what we do have is kind of a parallel widening that we always use. I got the candy paint coupe de ville with the fur. And then we also have a slap delay. I got the candy paint coupe de ville with the fur on the wheel, got the snake eyes dice hanging up. And then we have a short reverb. I got the candy paint coupe de ville with the fur on the wheel, got the snake eyes dice hanging. So for the parallel widening, we're using a Dimension D. For the slap delay, we are just using Repeater by D16. It's in the Slate bundle. And then for the short reverb, we are just using a Short Room and Verb Suite by Slate. And this is the most important thing that we're doing on this vocal. This is a parallel compression saturation. I got the candy paint coupe de ville with the fur on the wheel, got the snake eyes dice hanging off the mirror. So to get that kind of gritty vocal that you hear in their song 777, you are going to want some kind of parallel chain for this, and let me show you what that's doing. If we go right here to the parallel compression, I'm going to de-ess it a little bit so before it hits that saturation, it's not super sibilant. And then what I do is I'll add something like Decapitator on with the punish knob, and I'm really just going to drive this pretty hard. We're going to leave the mix at 100% wet since it is a send. And then I'm going to take out some of these low mids so they don't get really, really muddy with all that saturation. Take out some of these really, really crispy top ends that we don't need that to feed back in. And then I'm going to add a little bit of a slap delay with H delay just right on this. So it's going to be a little bit of compression, it's going to be a little bit of saturation, and it's going to be a little bit of extra slap back. And that really gives this vocal a vibe. So let me take all of this off so I can show you. I got the candy paint coupe de ville with the fur on the wheel, got the snake eye. And then I'm going to add it back in. I got the candy paint coupe de ville with the fur on the wheel, got the snake eyes dice hanging off the mirror. I'm going to turn the slap down a little bit and the parallel wide or the parallel compression and saturation down. I got the candy paint coupe de ville with the fur on the wheel, got the snake eyes dice hanging off the mirror. And then what I want to do is I want to get a little delay throw on some words and phrases, so I'm just going to do that. If you haven't seen our video that we did last week on adding signature delay throws, go check that out so I don't have to take up too much time. But really, it's just a delay throw with like some flanging. Off the mirror. And then one thing that Silk Sonic does a lot in their songs is they'll have like shouts and ad-libs and party noises and like spoken kind of ad-lib phrases. So what I've done is I tracked a bunch of gang vocals where I just yelled shit across my room and panned them. Yeah! And then I did like a big shout that I panned right. Yeah! And then I did like some spoken ad-libs. And then that all together over the beat really gives you that kind of Silk Sonic vibe. And since we're going into the B part of this verse, I'm going to start adding in some extra layers for some width and for some texture. So we're just doubling certain phrases. Blackjack, back a wreck, craps and we all back, morning, pouring, baby now we sorry. So that layered over everything. Those are tracked 2 separate times just to give me some space. Yeah, we double down on blackjack, hit the back of rack, do 7 on the craps, and we make it all back. 3:30 in the morning, bottle service pouring, way past fader, baby, now we're sorry. And then I'm gonna keep those duplicates going for the entire time. So tracked it 3 separate times, once for the middle, once for the left, one for the right. Diving in the swimming pools full of champagne. Layered with the main. Diving in the swimming pools full of champagne. Penthouse living room full of cocaine. Baby, this is Sin City. And then I've got just some, I guess they're harmonies, but they're kind of like shouted harmonies. Full of champagne. Full of cocaine. And you can drop those pretty hard. They're really just for vibe. You can kind of barely hear them or notice them in there. Baby, now we're sorry. And again, we just have that delay throw. Let's get to probably the most Silk Sonic-y vocal thing that we'll go over in this entire video. And that's these like really phasey, kind of wet, like shout, I guess like bridge vocals that they do. I know that's right, so come and get in there. Woo! So there's a lot of automation happening on this. It's really nothing crazy until we get to this H delay. So as you can see, I'm going for a 16th ping pong, and we're gonna automate that wet and that feedback up quite a bit. I know that's right, so come and get in there. Woo! Down the boulevard. And that's gonna give you that cool vibe, and then we've added a flanger that we're also automating that mix. I know that's right, so come and get in there. Woo! So when in doubt, when you're trying to go for that like Silk Sonic, James Brown kind of funk, soul, R&B thing, flanger, phaser, chorus, and automating reverbs and delays can really give you a lot of texture on a vocal. So let's hear how that sounds in the mix, because it sounds really silly on its own, but it really works in the Now we're getting into this like little pre-chorus bridge section. So this is where we are going to stack vocals. We have that main vocal up the middle, we have the main vocal on the right and the main vocal on the left, but what we also do is we have these 2 harmonies that kind of continue throughout. Come and take a ride with me, now come and take a ride with me. Come and take a ride with me, now come and take a ride with me. Come and take a ride with me, now come and take a ride with me. On the boulevard, baby, I'm just trying to see. And then again, we have that kind of like shouted vocal right there. And then what we're gonna do is we have one tagline that's gonna happen right before the chorus, and it's just got a bunch of saturation on this, just decapitator kind of obliterating it, and it sounds like this. Here's what that entire section does. And there we go, that leads us into the chorus. We also stack some oohs and ahhs just to kind of give us a little bit of extra vocal texture, just like as a pad. Just a lot of reverb and a lot of phaser. And then that's pretty much it, just a couple shouts over the chorus on that same kind of like flanging vocal lead track that we did earlier. And I think that is pretty much the whole song. So if you want, we can play this through. I'll kind of let you see what we're doing. One thing that I didn't talk about is I did do a little bit of mixing to the Anderson .Paak kit. So again, here's what this sounds like if we take everything off. So we really just did some kick and snare stuff just with some EQ, but nothing crazy. Here's what the Paak sounds without either of those inserts. Here's with the kick turned on. Just giving it a little bit more thump in the low end, and then those, you know, kind of like subby lows, taking away some of that low mid that's a little bit boxy. And then same with the snare. Just thickening it up and beefing it up just a little bit. And then with everything, all of the percussion, all of the drums, all of that bass, all of the vocals, here is what we get. Let's take a listen. And that's going to do it. That is how you make a song like Silk Sonic. As you can see, we took some of the funk elements, we took some of the soul elements, we put some R&B elements, we mixed it all with some modern pop, and by the end, we got a song that I feel super, super proud of. This is not a style that I work in a ton. This video was a ton of work for us, and the Anderson .Paak in general was a ton of work for us. So if you like this video, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It helps us out a ton. And if you want to pick up the Anderson .Paak, or you want to support the channel and pick up any of our other presets, courses, samples, anything like that, you can head over to makepopmusic.com. We appreciate all the love and support. Supporting us on that website helps us make these videos on the YouTube channel. So that's going to do it for this video. Let us know in the comments below what videos you want to see in the near future. Let us know if you want to see a Silk Sonic ballad. Does anybody want to see a video like the new Harry Styles record? Let us know in those comments and we can get on to that. But that is going to do it for this video. Once again, thank you for all the love and support. I hope you like this. I hope you go check out the Anderson .Paak. That's going to do it for this video this week. We'll be back next week with more content. Much love, everyone. Peace.